Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher notan haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, who gives the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to his people Israel and to all the peoples through his Son Yeshua the Messiah our Lord. Amen. Okay. What I wanted to chat to you guys today about was, for the most part, we're going to be struggling on buying Israel while you guys are doing your Pesach Seder. Feel very sorry for us.
Yes, we do.
Thank you for your support.
I hope you miss us.
We will, but while I'm in Israel. So you guys are going to be experiencing, obviously when you go through a Seder, there's certain teaching points that we like to make a point of. Some of you haven't experienced one before. So what I wanted to do today was just kind of take you through a basic one and then push it back into Scripture and see kind of the understanding of where we get things. And talk about the symbols. Now obviously we have Scripture and we've got tradition. Right? What they drive you to today with the triclinium, right? The triclinium, that was that U-shaped table, tradition. Right? Do you have to have a triclinium dealing with your Pesach Seder? No. Is it nice? Yes. But you don't have to. Okay? We understand that as we look at this, we've got to fulfill physical instructions, physical mitzvot, but there are also certain traditions. Now we've got some traditions that date back to Yeshua, and we've got other traditions that we find in your modern day Seder. Okay? You guys all know what the word Seder means? It's the order of the meal. Okay, so when we talk about a Pesach Seder, it's the way the meal is going to go. Alright, now, over long periods of time, this thing has kind of been developed. Some of the things have been added on because temples are no longer around. I'm going to discuss each thing and we're going to look at these things. But what I really want to do is point you back to what Scripture is about and what Yeshua probably would have done. Right? If we've got any questions when you look at this, whenever you're researching it, you've always got to go and you go check Scripture, and if you understand Scripture, if it's a little bit unclear, we can look into what Messiah did and hopefully we'll get a clearer picture. In many cases, he answers a lot of our questions in the way he practiced things. Alright, are you guys okay? Alright, so with Pesach, you guys have been hammered with a whole bunch of teaching over a few weeks. Hopefully, you're not feeling too overwhelmed, but you understand the context of it all pretty well. Right? There's sections like, go with me quickly to 1 Corinthians 5. Corinthians 5, I've got them here in my notes, verse 7 and 8. Can someone read that out for me?
Therefore cleanse out the old leaven, that you are a new lump, as you are unleavened. Also Messiah, our Pesach, was slaughtered for us.
Okay, next verse.
So then let us celebrate the festival, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of evil and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
Right. Okay, so what do we get from that?
Get rid of the old comments.
Okay, so what is commands?
Uncleanness,
Right. So as we going through this process, do you think this is something that, at the end of it, it says, therefore let us keep the festival not with old leaven or old bread with leaven in it, with malice and wickedness, but with unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Right? So when you go into a Pesach Seder, one of the first things I need you to remember that is check your heart condition before you sit down at that table. Okay, I'm going to push you into some scriptures a little later when we look at what they call the Lord's Supper. And you'll see what I'm talking about. This is a big thing for us. Okay, this is Messiah sitting there on a plate saying, this is what I want to do for you, this is what I'm going to do for you, and this is where we are with this. Okay, but before we get into the scriptural references, I thought I would deal with the traditional elements. Alright? You know me, I like to get into the scripture and I'm probably going to get stuck there for a while. So, I thought let me do the other stuff first and then we can deal with this. Okay, so in your normal sort of Seder plate. Okay, you don't have to have one like this. A lot of people just put out little bowls. Okay, this is basically what we have. In the middle it says Pesach, and then we've got a couple of things. Horseradish, egg, shank bone, bitter herbs, charoshet, parsley. Now in many cases the horseradish and the bitter herbs are the same thing. Alright, so if you wanted to add in another extra one, that's fine. You don't need to. What is the instruction biblically? Okay, matzah, bitter herbs. What did you roast over a fire? Lamb. Okay, so we need unleavened bread, we need bitter herbs, and we need lamb. Okay, now some people have an issue with this, and that's where we get to the egg. Alright, we don't have a temple. Normally the Passover lamb, as you went up, you took your lamb to be slaughtered, and then you took it home and you roasted it for your section of family, right? Okay, good. We don't have a temple. We can't slaughter it there. So what do? We roast an egg over the fire as a symbol of the lamb. Okay, that's where they get it from. Did Yeshua have an egg on his Seder plate? No. Okay, is it a sin if you have an egg on your Seder plate? No. Okay? There's some very interesting images. Some people say it's a lamb. You know, the funniest one I heard was, I shared with you guys last time, it's a symbol of Israeli nationality. Right? The longer you keep them in the fire, the harder they get. And if you ever met an Israeli, that's a pretty accurate statement. Right? So you sit there and you look at it, and this is what you're going to see if you go to a traditional Seder. Okay? I really don't mind. For me, I don't really put the egg there because I'm eating the lamb. If you want to have egg instead of lamb, that's on you. Right? When you look at the horseradish and the bitter herbs, what is that? It's supposed to be a reminder of? Suffering, slavery. Right? Remember the people that went through this redemptive story. They cried out for 400 years for the freedom you're enjoying. Don't take it for granted. People died in Egypt, longing to be free and in a relationship with God. You walk in, you plonk yourself down at a table and you go, well, it's just Passover lamb, this is something we do. Lift yourself up, go sit outside for a little bit, and when you feel better, come back. Okay? You have to remember that this is a very personal story, and it's personal for us as well. The instruction is that you will, when your children ask you, why do we do this? What are we told? What do we have to tell them?
Because this is what the Father did for us.
When He freed us, when He freed me from slavery. It's personal. The Jews do that, they don't fully understand it because they don't really grab Messiah. But there's a thing here. If He didn't take us out of Egypt, where would we be? You could possibly still be in Egypt. From a normal physical standpoint, how would God fulfill all of these lovely scriptures about Yeshua coming into the house and riding on a donkey and would that have happened in Egypt? Yeah, the temple right next to the pyramids? Probably not. So you have a Messiah because of this redemptive story. You have something that He uses. In 1 Corinthians it says He's our Passover lamb. Alright? We've gone through all of this imagery. This is about Him in many cases. Okay? So we remember the bitter herbs. Okay? The parsley, what they do is, they do this with the egg as well. They keep salt water on the table in a traditional Seder. So that when you dip it in and you chew on it, what does the salt water represent? The tears that were shed. Do you need salt water? No. If you want it, okay. Okay, this part I leave completely up to you. How you want to run your Seder? If you want a traditional Seder, that's fine. If you're going to take certain elements and you're going to put them in, that's okay. As long as we fulfill the biblical instruction. Alright? So we've got unleavened bread. What does the unleavened bread represent? It's not on your Seder plate, but it's there.
The leaving in a hurry out of...
Well, we've got a couple of different things, right? The first practical application is that we needed to leave, so we didn't let our stuff be able to rise. We didn't give it time. Now, what was chametz in ancient times? Old dough that was there previously. So I made it, I would take off a piece, I would stick it on the windowsill, and I would carry on with it. I would work in the other piece that I left there for a couple of days. How do I know this one is ready? When it starts to grow some interesting green stuff, I take that and I work it into the new batch, and that's what puffs it up. So the green moldy thing is what gives you puffy bread. Okay, today it's slightly different. We have different types of leavening agents. If you've ever cleaned out your house before, you realize you're just not looking for mold in your windowsills. There's all types of yeasting things that are worked into stuff, spices, vinegars, those sort of things. And as we get rid of the chametz physically, what are you focusing on? Getting rid of the fraud. And we look at this and we go, well, if it's about puffing up, well, how often do you puff yourself up? It's all about you, right? How you want to celebrate, when you want to celebrate, whether you're okay to celebrate. And then all of a sudden we have to stop and we have to realize, hang on a second, this is about God, this is not about me. Yeshua came down, squeezed himself into a little baby's, think about it, part there with the creation. Holding the star, speaking things into existence. And then what? Comes down into a little baby's form and he can't even burp himself. If he humbled himself, who are you to say otherwise? So we've got this process. And we need to understand that we need to emulate him, we need to be like him, we have to get rid of this stuff. We have to stop and looking at it. Yeshua says, beware of the chametz of the Pharisees. What was he talking about?
Changes.
Right, okay, Torah is truth. It's fine, it's great. But all the additions you want to bring in because you're a Pharisee, all of your interpretations on the way you do stuff, and people have to listen to you because you said so.
Do what they say, not what they do.
They taught Torah. And then, when they weren't sitting in the seat of Moses teaching Torah, they added a whole bunch of other things. Okay? So we need to get rid of this, and we need to understand that we need to be like matzah. We need to be flat. We need to be unleavened. We need to be dealing with ourselves. We need to be humble. Humble, humility is not weakness. Humility is about me submitting my strength to God. It's about me acknowledging who He is and who I am not. Hopefully many of you guys have been around long enough to realize that you can't run your life and you don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. Right? You need Him. How many of us have made bad decisions in the last week? How many of you are still feeling those bad decisions? Now if God knows best and we consulted Him more and we realize it's not about me, it's about Him and His story in my life, then I can come in maybe with sincerity and truth and I can be unleavened. And that doesn't help us coming together and we still have wickedness and malice, or we're very grumpy because that person did this or this person did that and we just don't understand how things are happening. You know, it's a beautiful thing to sit down in union together, sharing a meal, thinking about Messiah, knowing that everything is okay. This is something that we need to celebrate, something that we need to enjoy. When you set up your Seder plate, and guys, this is gonna happen. 9 times out of 10, it's been our experience, especially when we do a big one, when you're hosting or anything like that, things are probably gonna fall off the wagon. Things are gonna go wrong. You're gonna be running around. Children try not to be crazy. You guys have a tendency to lose your marbles. Parents are trying not to lose their marbles because they have to reflect Messiah because people are coming. and everybody's trying to sit there and learn together. And when you slide into the Pesach table, maybe reclining is an apt description. You kind of just like sit there and you go, Chag Sameach, happy holiday. You lost your joy 4 hours ago. And Hasatan has done a wonderful job of distracting you of what's not important, what is important. Because for some reason you took your eyes off Messiah and you realized, well, hang on a second, this is hard work. And we lost the point. We lose the heart. And there's one thing we try and instill. Every time we do a Seder, man, you've got to feel this heart. You've got to feel Him. I'll explain it as we go. Okay? So you're going to go through specific things. Okay? Everybody good on the Seder plate? Right? When you look at certain things, I've got an abridged version here of a Messianic Haggadah. Okay, you get, if you go on a website, Hebrews for Christians, you can download one. It's a more traditional one. Mark off what you don't want to do. Do what you can. Yeah, there are a few, and there's a few out there. Okay, they start with reading Leviticus 23. It's an important time. It's and then they talk about different prayers, welcome things, lighting of candles as they do with Shabbat and every other feast. Coming in, remember, biblically, it kind of makes sense to light lights before sun went down. Otherwise, you wouldn't see what you were eating. Don't get hung up on the candles, though. Okay? Then they would have blessings. And then we go into, you'll see the first cup. First cup. Right? How many are there in the Pesach Seder? 4. Or 4 sips. Depends if you're drinking wine or grape juice. No? That's a lovely party. I love everybody. I was very grumpy before I got here. By the 4th one, I'm feeling great. You're missing it, man. Alright? I'll explain the 4. Oh, you know what? Let's do it as we go. I want you to go to Exodus 6, verse 6 and 7. Exodus 6, verses 6 and 7. Everybody there? Alright. It says, therefore say to the people of Israel, I am Yehovah, I am Adonai. I will free you from the forced labor of the Egyptians, rescue you from their oppression, and redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. I will take you as my people, and I will be your God. Stop there. 4 cups, 4 promises. Okay? In a shortened form, promise number 1, I will free you from what? Two. Second promise. Rescue you from oppression. Third promise. Name you with an outstretched arm. Miracles or judgments. And the 4th one. Will take you. It belongs to him, it belongs to you. Okay? This is the essence and what links and holds everything about the judgments, the miracles, the plagues, whatever you want to call them, to the point of the death of the firstborn, to free them, to get them to Sinai, from Sinai to get them to Shavuot. Once we get through with this, you're going to start counting what they call the Omer. Okay? You are supposed to count 7 weeks. Alright? 49 days, and on the 50th day you have another festival. God doesn't stop at Pesach. And when I say Pesach, I'm really talking about 3 feasts, yes? Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruits. He says those 3 go together, but they link in with Shavuot. Festival of Weeks. You cannot have this without this part. Okay? I'm going to explain to you that first section, and then we're going to get into this. But this is going to be the point. We've got 4 cups. So they go in, and they've got names for the cups. Okay? So we go in, and the first cup is called the cup of sanctification. Alright? What does it mean to be sanctified? You set apart. Okay? Once we go in there and we say a bracha, we're going to see that bracha. Anybody know the bracha? Blessing?
There was no wine one.
It's absolutely, it's the same one.
Yeah, they started to like out being up in the things for the food of the land.
Absolutely. Remember that, it's going to come up. They go into washing of the hands normally, and then they start with a green vegetable, which is a piece of parsley and the salt water, and you remember the tears, and out of the tears brought life. That's why it's a green vegetable. Then you go into what's called the yachatz. The yachatz is you get a little bag, okay, with 3 sections in it, and then you put 3 pieces of matzah. You take the middle matzah and then you break it, and then you wrap it up and you hide it. And then they go into questions, the manish tana. Now if you do yourself a favor, it's quite interesting. You go to YouTube and you Google manish tana, right? Want me to spell that for you?
So what is the bag called? The yacht?
Mishtana. Yachatz. You want me to spell yachatz? Yachatz. Remember, every time you see a CH, if we try to translate from Hebrew, they would use a chet or another language or another word, you will see it as CH, maybe KH. Sometimes people just put an H. It just tells you that there's that noise. Okay? So the yachatz, alright? But if you go into the manish tana, it's quite interesting. It's basically why on this night. They sing it. So there's normally a couple of questions that they ask, normally 4. Different sailors, they will say, they will, certain rabbis have a different way of doing it, they will say different types of sons. And then they talk about the wise son, and they talk about the silly son, and all the rest of it. That's not generally what you're going to find. But what you're going to find is why they go like this, on all other nights, we eat either leavened or unleavened bread, but on this night we only eat unleavened bread. Why? On all other nights, we may eat all kinds of herbs. You don't understand. We're sitting in Israel with this uncle over here, and we go for pizza for lunch on 2 days. And then he started, why on all other days do we only eat pizza, but on this day we ate pizza twice? On all other nights, we may eat any kind of herbs, but on this we only eat bitter herbs. On all other nights, we need not dip our herbs even once, but on this night we dip it twice. On all other nights, we can eat either sitting or reclining, but on this night we all recline. And there's guys that will sing it out for you in Hebrew. Alright? Sounds quite lovely. If you ever experience a proper Seder when you go into Jerusalem or something like that, you sit there and people randomly break out into song and you're like, oh, what the heck's going on? It's because every prayer is a song. The psalmist sang. Right? If you can't do it, YouTube, play. And then what you do is, the psalmist was singing most of the psalms are songs, not all of them. They would sing certain questions, and there's this dialogues, and you would see these families answer each other. One group would carry on with this song, and then the leader would say this, and other family would carry on with more songs. And it's just this beautiful flowing thing, because this family's been doing it so long, they've learned to harmonize as a family. It's a very, very cool experience. But you sit there and you go and you watch this get played out, and then what it does is it brings us into to fulfill the mitzvah. when your kids ask you the question. And they would normally have an abridged version of this is what happened. If you go to an Orthodox Seder, it's called the Bible. And they start in Exodus, and then they go, sit, and they read. That's a Bible. This is the abridged version of what you're going to read. So they will read out of the Torah, they will read the Exodus story of what we've been getting into about the plagues, about what's going to happen from Moses through. And then you're going to be sitting there and the kiddies have to sit still and listen. I understand the pain. Sitting there listening to these guys go through the story was sounding like I was sitting in an auction. And I'm like, now you must understand, my Hebrew is about as good as ordering falafels and asking directions. I sat there and I was trying to pick out words and I had no clue where this uncle was, in what book he was reading. I was just like, wow. But if I do it at normal speed, you're only going to eat at 12. Most of you guys sitting still for an hour is a bit of a test. Okay? So it's getting late. Can you hurry up, please, Spencer? So you would go through this and they would recount the stories on what they would do, and then they would go into calling out the miracles. Now what they would do is they'll take their fingers and dip it into the wine or the grape juice and you put little dots around your plate. Some of them do that and then they would sing out a song, Dayenu. What does Dayenu mean? It would have been enough. How many of you know the tune to Dayenu? Right, let me hear it. Fabulous. You see that? So they will go through a bunch of things and then they realize that God has gone the extra step. Okay, so they'll say something like, if he had brought us out of Egypt and not judged the Egyptians, it would have been enough. If he had judged the Egyptians and not divided the sea and let us pass through, it would have been enough. And so they go on, showing you that God has taken the step and step and step and step and step because of his love. It's not just good enough that I get you out of Egypt. It's not just good enough that I smack the Egyptians. It's not just good enough that I get you to the Red Sea. It's not just good enough. His plan is so much more than what they understood. Guys, when you look at your life and you think you have arrived, he's sitting there smiling and he goes, no, no, we've still got a little bit to go. Like, you got us over the Red Sea, freedom. No, my boy, this is the desert. You're going to need me a little bit longer. It's a lesson they quickly learned after 3 days. And once they get past Mara, they think they're okay, and then they end up at an oasis and they think they have arrived. And he goes, no, let's get to Sinai. And I'm like, but where's the bread coming from? It's part of the journey. And slowly preparing them, leading them, changing them to get them to the point. Everything's stages with God. He's trying to prepare the next stage, but you have to be willing to follow. And sometimes he puts you into positions to make you realize something. You know, it always blows my mind to think that from a normal human mindset, all we need is wealth. If you give us wealth in a land, we could buy our farms, we can live happily. And he's like, plunder the Egyptians, and then we're carrying bags of gold and all this stuff, and we're schlepping them along through the wilderness. And then 3 days later, we realize we can't drink gold. We need water. Did any of you think of bringing water? No. Okay, I'll give you water. Some time passes and then they like start moaning about bread. You can't eat your jewels. Yeah, slight oversight there, Abba. Can you help us out? Quail? And so we go on. There's just this learning curves. How many of you brought jerseys with your big gold box? You might freeze to death. Fire at night. Cloud by day. It's only 48 degrees in the desert. Anybody want to go for a walk at 48 degrees? How's your camping skills? And there's so many things we haven't even thought of that he's already prepared, and he's going step after step after step ahead of you. That's the cool part about letting go in the steering wheel, because he knows what's coming and we have no clue. Then they go into the next major symbol. The shank bone obviously is the symbol of the Passover lamb. We understand that symbol, hopefully now, of how Yeshua fulfilled all those things. Some of it leads out to say, well, we also, it's part of the shank bone for a purpose because it's the outstretched arm. It's just like a symbol of someone's arm reaching out. There's one, but the shank bone is generally about the lamb. And then you eat your unleavened bread. You might see in your Seder that they go search for the leaven. Okay, this confuses me a little bit, right? Because what they do is they leave a little bit of leaven in their houses. Now let's just play this out a little bit here for a second. It's the 14th day. At 3 p.m. what happens? Slaughter lamb, go, get everything, blood, doorpost, and then go in. When does he say that the leaven, there must be no leaven in your house? On the 15th day. Okay, that gives us roughly from 3 p.m. maybe to 6 p.m. if sun sets around there. You've got 3 hours to clean house. Is that going to work for you? No. All right, so let's say you have a really small place and you get rid of all the chametz. You go in at sunset, so 6:01 roughly p.m. We're into our Seder. Why am I still looking for leaven?
It's the paper seats.
Yeah, exactly. But we threw everything out. Do we have to go fetch some more? No. No, you don't. Okay? It's a little tradition to get the kids involved.
Sorry, Vince, but Exodus 12 actually also says that. It
What?
says, I'm going to go there for hold on. It says, I'm reading from, 12 from 15. It says, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. Whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off.
Remember, from the process of what you're dealing with here, you would have worked that into your dough if it was the case. But that's from an ancient biblical custom. You have leaven, removed leaven out of your house so that you don't eat it, right? It says you will find no leaven in your houses at that time in case you eat it, type of scenario.
Yeah.
Get rid of all the chametz. The problem is, it's not just our little piece of moldy bread that's sitting on top of the dough on the side there. It's not just, big, okay, we're good, let's carry on with our day. When we talk about our houses in this situation, it takes people generally a week, not even playing, going through your ingredients and your items list and cleaning out the different rooms, because if you've got kids, bread and all that stuff has been eaten in your car, in the bedroom, in the study, in the bed itself, under the bed, and you find crumbs in the most interesting places. Now the whole point is, again, you're coming into a Shabbat, right? The first day of unleavened bread. The symbol is prepare your place. In that example, they kind of bring people in and then they say just get rid of the last little bit so that it doesn't happen to go into. The problem is we've already got pre-leavened agents already. So prepare and clean out your house before you sit down and relax and go into it. Then they go into the maror, or the bitter herbs. Shall we remember Judas and Yeshua, like Nick mentioned? Whoever dips his hand in the bowl with me, the bitterness of betrayal, something to remember. Yeshua knew what was going to happen. He elevated Judas. He gave him every chance to repent, and he doesn't. Then they brought in something here they call the charoset. Okay? Now what's charoset? Okay. Apple, nuts, some honey mixed together. Sometimes they sprinkle a little bit of wine, cinnamon in. And then basically they've done is they've made this sort of funny looking paste that looks like mortar. Remember when you were a slave when you had to make mud bricks? Okay? So they've developed another image that wasn't really in the time of Yeshua, but it does really help get the taste of the horseradish out your mouth. Okay? Tastes nice? Public? Yeah, I don't have a problem, but other people. Alright, so they're not all that happy. There's something that they call the halal sandwich, where you take 2 pieces of matzah with challah in between, and you go, and you have your unleavened bread, and you remember the water, and all of a sudden life doesn't taste like horseradish or bitter herbs anymore, so it's okay again. And then they go into the second cup. Okay, the second cup, they call it the cup of thanksgiving. Why are we thankful? Yeah, because he rescued you. Okay? From there, they go into the boiled egg, and they dip it in the salt water again, and it talks about the sadness, and we miss the temple, and if we get it wrong again, he's going to take our temple away. For us as believers, it's kind of like, too late. Okay? So that's not a major thing, but you know, our brethren is still pretty sad and missing their house. And then they go into the meal. Alright, so just imagine you read most of the Exodus. And then after all of that, then you get to go to the meal. Afterwards, you eat the children go look for what's called the afikomen. Remember that middle matzah that you broke, that you wrapped up in a linen? You hide it somewhere for a little bit, and then they go and search for it. I find it very intriguing they choose to it. You take a yachatz, which has got 3 different divisions in a single bag. 3 in 1. You take the middle one, you break it. You wrap it up in a cloth, and you go and hide him for a little bit of time. Send his children to go and find him. Weren't there some ladies that went looking for him to go and wrap his body? Because they never finished perfuming his body when they wrapped him up quickly the first time. I won't see you for a little time. He was 3 days and 3 nights hidden away. And I sit there smiling in Jerusalem like, I don't believe you guys don't get this. And this is a fairly modern add-on. So Yeshua being wrapped up, folded away, they go and find him, and the word afikomen is like, it's almost like the pudding, the dessert. Oh, how sweet it is to find the afikomen and eat it. It's Yeshua. Anyway, for us, afikomen means the one who came, or the coming one. Very interesting. Then you go into the third cup. This is called the cup of redemption. Okay, this one sticks pretty close. Okay, the cup of redemption. And we have a nice sip, and then we go into what's called the Hallel. Okay? Praise and worship happens at this time. The Hallel Psalms is Psalms 113 to 118. Hallelujah. Okay? Praise be to God. Alright? And they would sing this, celebrating the fact that they're in Jerusalem, and we're celebrating the fact that we had the Passover lamb, and we're celebrating the fact for us that we've been freed. You think you understand it from a Jewish perspective, and you understand it from a believer's perspective, yes? After that celebration, we have the 4th cup, otherwise known as the cup of Elijah. Interesting. The cup of Elijah. Now, there's, again, in your traditional seders, they'll say things like, children quickly go run and look at the door. Elijah might be coming. He's the one to announce the coming of Messiah. In many places, they actually set a place for Elijah, just in case he does pitch up, and we've got to make sure he's got food, right? We obviously know who carried the mantle of Elijah in Yeshua's time. John the Baptist. But indeed, if we look at the 2 witnesses in Revelations, someone who comes in the power that is able to control the weather, that's something that Elijah did. He prayed to God that there would be no rain, and for 3 years it didn't have rain. So indeed, he may still come, but not the way the Messiah to announce, again, maybe what we call the second coming of Mashiach. Alright? So it's an interesting illusion. I'm not too phased about calling it Elijah's cup. I want to stick to the biblical the scriptures. Are you guys all okay?
Sorry, did you do that cup?
No, you're going to do this cup. You're going to do the cup of the one with the promise that he's going to come and take you. But we're going to see why. I want you to go to don't worry. Luke 22. Let me just stop writing that this card. I shouldn't actually call it this card because they actually write me probably Luke 22. Very far away. Let me just compare my notes here. Okay. I want you to go down to go to verse 14 for me. When the time came, Yeshua and the emissaries reclined at the table, and he said to them, I really wanted to celebrate the Seder with you before I die. For I tell you, it is certain that I will not celebrate it again until it is given its full meaning in the kingdom of heaven. All right. Full meaning. Any other translation then?
Fulfillment.
It's fulfillment. Remember, to fulfill something Hebraically means to lift up and establish it. Okay? So he's saying only later will these promises be established. Okay? So let's see what happens in the Seder. Then taking a cup of wine. Now your first question is, which cup? He took a cup of wine and he made a bracha. What's your translation say?
Giving thanks.
He gave thanks, he made a blessing. Okay? And said, take this and share it among yourselves, for I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. Okay. Keep that in your back of your mind. We're going to read further to try and identify which one it is. Also taking a piece of matzah, and he made the bracha. Okay? When did we take the matzah?
After the first cup.
After the first cup. So it couldn't be the first cup because the matzah hasn't been dished out yet. Okay? So let's look at it from a spiritual perspective. I'm going to free you from the Egyptians. Now we know. Mitzrayim means bondage, which is Egypt. I'm going to free you from bondage. But if we took it from a literal point of view, has that been dealt with? Yeah, they're kind of not in Egypt anymore. They've been in Israel for a while. They're having a good time. They're relaxing. They're reclining. I will rescue you from oppression. I will deliver you from oppression. Okay? When did that fully take place? If we wanted to keep it about the Egyptians, we could say the Red Sea. Only after the Red Sea were they delivered from them. Okay? But he doesn't say, I will deliver you from the oppression or of the Egyptians per se. He just says, I'll deliver you from oppression. In the context of Exodus 6, we know it's about Egypt. But in a spiritual context, what type of oppression is he talking about? Sin. Your own bondage, your own brokenness, your own chemets. You have put yourself in chains and you've locked yourself up so tight, I have to free you. Okay? Okay. It says, also taking a piece of matzah, he made a bracha, blessed it, or he gave thanks. What's the blessing for the bread? Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe. Okay? Bread from the earth, a big sort, bread from the earth, right? There were two prominent rabbis from the time before Messiah that developed a formula for blessing God for something. Nowhere in Scripture do you see this. Right? Yeshua pulled on tradition to help people understand God. When they got it right, he used it. When it overruled Torah, he nullified it. He says your tradition is not the problem. The problem is you're looking to man's tradition higher than God's law, his instruction. They're reclining at the table. Nowhere does it say that we have to recline. Nowhere does it say that we have to sit at a triclinium. Yet, he's using a triclinium, he's reclining at a table and he's making a bracha. Guys, do not get stuck. We get into this place where if you came out of church, you were taught the traditions of men, and all traditions are bad now. Because all you need is Torah. The problem is, Messiah understood the traditions of men, and he said, that's really nice, I like the way you think. But, understand Torah is here. The tradition is here. It's only when the Pharisees started to lift it above Torah that he said, no, no, no. That's not good. You're going to miss God if you don't understand. Okay? So he makes a bracha and he breaks it and he gave it to them and he says, this is my body, which is being given for you. Do this in memory of me. It's at Pesach. What are they supposed to be remembering according to the mitzvot? Redemption, salvation, being pulled out of bondage. Remember the Passover lamb. You're remembering the Passover lamb. I'm going to show you the Passover lamb. He did the same with the cup after the meal. So we know from a Seder that the meal comes here, yes? It's a separation marker for us. So, let's go back a little bit. Rewind. Taking the cup of wine. No. Yeah, no. Is it empty? Yeah. Taking a cup of wine, he made the bracha. He said, take this and share it among yourselves. For I tell you, from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. I will not drink of this complete removal of oppression until he is on the throne establishing his house. You see it? How is he going to do that? By offering up himself, the matzah, and then he takes the cup after the meal. Verse 20. This is the cup of the new covenant ratified by my blood, which is being poured out for you. Redemption. How is your redemption going to happen? Would we say it was miraculous that he was resurrected? I don't think so. Who did that? Who conquered death? God. Did he do it with a weak left hand or a mighty outstretched arm? Now, if I freed you to belong to God, I'm coming to rescue you, to change you from your sin. I'm going to give my body as a sacrifice, as the Passover lamb, so that I can redeem you. What's the purpose of this all? Because I'm coming to take you. Now, there's an interesting thing. How did God take Elijah? He ascended, right? It's funny to me that he says, I'm going to take you to me. And God is in heaven and he uses Elijah as a picture to a Jewish Seder. It's a provocative thing. If he's going to take you, how is he going to take you? What is he talking about? Is he just taking it to himself? And in the one context we could say yes. We're going to get there. He's going to take you unto himself. like he did is he drew them out and he took them to Sinai and he betrothed them to himself. But we understand something here that changes. See, Yeshua, instead of just carrying on with the Seder, he stops at the redemption cup and he goes, yay, thank you for God's redemption. Well, actually, he starts setting it up here with the rescue, and then he says, this is my body, and you go, hang on a second, I thought we were just eating matzah. What the heck are you talking about? And then he goes, well, I'm going to rescue you through my body, and then I'm going to redeem you. And then he offers them the cup. Right? In biblical ancient tradition, an offering of a glass of wine is a wedding proposal. So if I propose to you, remember you're following this rabbi for about 3 years, if we understand correctly. You've given up everything to follow him. You're 13 guys sitting around the room, and then I look at you and then I go, hey. Go down on one knee and make a proposal. It's normally where you probably check out land and go, maybe I should make an exit quickly. How close were you to the door? He stops the Seder and he brings a proposal. And he says, I'm going to establish the new covenant. Now, obviously, we've done some teaching on the new covenant. But when you look at it in Jeremiah 31 and Ezekiel 36, and he starts talking about giving you a new spirit, sprinkling you clean, changing your heart, writing Torah on your heart. And the point of it all, you will be mine. I will be your God and you will be mine. So this redemption process is already pointing out to God's law, breathed on you through the Ruach, changing your heart so that you act out of love towards Him. And how do we understand love? Marriage. You are no longer unto yourself. I have bought you with a price. You belong to me, and I'm going to go away for a while. See, the custom was, after he proposed, the bride price was settled. After the to-be groom proposed, he would go home with his dad. That woman was as good as locked down. She was married. It's just not been consummated yet. They would go off, and he would build onto daddy's house. We have evidence of this archaeologically. It's called an insular style house. Basically, they would have a common courtyard and they would build a room next to a room. Right? And that room would be where you and your bride are going to be. Now, it's your job to get it ready. And you build and you build and you build, and then when daddy says, it looks good, my boy, it's definitely going to last more than 5 minutes. I know you're excited, but we need to build this properly. We can now go fetch her. What has she been doing? Getting ready. Okay? We don't know if he's coming back in 3 months or 6 months. So you can anticipate the time. We can think, okay, 4 months is here. He could arrive any day. I need to be ready. My dress, sorted. My ladies, sorted. Got oil in your lamp? Sitting there, waiting. Everything has been negotiated. Everything has been paid. He would come in after announcing himself with a shofar from a far off hill to give you at least 5 minutes to pack up your stuff and get in your dress and stand outside waiting for him. And then he would come in, grab her, and abduct her. No more negotiations, no more anything. This one belongs to me, I'm coming to collect. Now, in some cases, they build a box, and they put it in the box and they actually lift her up. But it's an interesting picture, if we think about it, that the groom never enters into the father's house. He waits outside. I find it interesting that if Yeshua is coming to fetch us, he doesn't have to come all the way down to earth. It says we're called up to him in the clouds. So he waits at the door. At the sound of the shofar, it says at the sound of the last trump, he'll come and collect his bride. We will be caught up with him. And we will be taken to a wedding supper. That lasts approximately how long? Normally 7 days. Okay? So in the midst of a Pesach Seder about a sheep getting slaughtered and Egyptians and all of that stuff, he stops it and turns it into a love story. And he says, look guys, over the next 24 hours is going to get kind of rough for you. But I want you to remember my promises. I'm going to redeem you. What does it mean to redeem somebody? Purchase them, but for what purpose?
Return the land it was lost.
You redeem the land, but to redeem the person, you redeem them back into our family. So you bring them back into the house. If the house is God's house, and we get redeemed back from the world to Him, at what cost? Yeshua will pay the price. It's echoed in Genesis 15, when Abraham entered into covenant, where the animals were split in two, where he was supposed to walk through the blood, he never did. There were two lambs or two lights that walked through the blood. God was saying, when the time comes, I will pay the price for your sins. When you break this covenant, I'm going to pay the price. Yeshua said, I'm going to redeem you so you can get back into that relationship and back into that covenant with me. I'm going to bring you in, I'm going to bring you home. But this time it's going to be forever. This is what Pesach is. It is the start of that process.
I wanted to ask whether those cups couldn't also be symbolic of salvation. So salvation is, I will free you from bondage, I'll justify you, which means I'm going to give you right standing, I'm rescuing you from the oppressor's kingdom. The next step is sanctification. So when I sanctify you, I'm going to redeem you out of this world. I'm going to teach you how to be back in the family, back in the house. And then lastly, it's glorification. I will take you to me, because it says in the New Testament that when Yeshua comes, we will see him as he is and we will be like him. And that the corrupt cannot take on the incorruptible. So I see salvation over there. Every time he was taking a cup, he was also trying to communicate something in terms of your walk, your journey, walking out your salvation with fear and trembling, how it's going to actually work until he comes for you and you will be glorified because you will be as he is.
It's there, but in a slightly different order. Because if you're going to look at justification and sanctification, when the first cup is sanctification with the section, we kind of have to line up where we are. The thing is, when you look at this stuff, it's layer upon layer upon layer. Right? So, again, we're talking about Egypt, but are we really talking about Egypt? We're talking about Christ, but has all of the things that Christ promised with us? No, because he's going to come and he's going to establish it further down the line in its fullness. So there's many different layers to this. Okay? What I want you guys to understand is that when you sit down at a Pesach meal, when you sit down, and guys, please do me a favor, we get to this place where, and we've had to take it on the chin as leadership and ask the questions. It became a place of, we use it as an evangelical tool. Sit down, come and celebrate Pesach with us, we'll teach you about our Messiah. That's not the place for it. If someone sits down at a Pesach table, they're accepting Christ. They're accepting the betrothal cup. They're accepting his body. They're accepting the fact that he's going to come and fetch you. It says no alien will eat it. Right? And that's not just someone who is foreign as in ethnicity, they're foreign from God. This is a big thing for him. This is something that we must undertake, and we need to understand that if we sit down at this Pesach table, this is us, this becomes a memorial, right? It becomes for me, every time I think about this, it's like my anniversary. I remember the time I gave my life to Christ. I remember the day I was baptized. That day. And I can look back as I was filled in my heart for the first time, and I was just excited, and I had no idea what was coming. But I was just amped and happy, and I was just like, I'm in this and I have no clue what's going on. But I knew He was with me, and that's all I knew. I remember that day. For me, it's very personal. The day you gave your life, the day you said, I'm going to give you everything, the day you freed me, the day you rescued me, the day you gave your body for me, the day you betrothed yourself to me, and I'm looking for the day and when you come and take me. When you're sitting at this Pesach, everything is about Yeshua. When you eat of that matzah, when you eat or when you drink of that cup, what are you saying? We get communion from this. Do you give communion to a person who doesn't believe? No. Because you have to believe if you accept the blood of Christ in His body.
Sort of question.
Sure.
How do you feel about inviting maybe a Christian that doesn't quite believe in the Torah, but they really love God and understand salvation, but this might be a way of explaining or for them to maybe realize how important. Because they do understand the pictures.
Yes.
They never experienced it like that.
It's a very good question. We kicked this around a little bit, and we believe that the first requirement of coming to eat the Pesach is he has to be a believer. Okay? You have to already want to know Christ to accept this Lord. So I mean, you're sitting there in a position and you're going, okay, guys, you sat down and you've given them maybe the whole talk. This is Christ. This is what He did. This is what He brought us into, and all the rest of us to get us to this point. My boy, are you going to eat and drink of that cup and that matzah? Maybe not this year. Nothing wrong. Think about it. Make sure when you commit wholeheartedly. But also do me a favor, don't think you have all the time in the world.
Do you have to, is this a commandment that you have to do Pesach every year?
Leviticus 23. It will be an eternal thing. Perpetual ordinance. It doesn't say do it until Messiah comes. Messiah Himself says, do this in remembrance of me. Every year.
All your generations.
All
so
your generations.
I can't stay home. I've got to go to...
No, you can. You can. You're a believer. You can. Right? We get together as a family. We get together because, number one, I enjoy having crazy people around. Number two, it's a communal thing. But in the beginning, it was if you're a singly, rather spend it with the guy next door. Like Nick said, you bring them into the house. Right? And you share the land. It's a practical thing, and part of you don't have to be alone when the destroyer is coming over your house. You stay here with us. Open up your house. Share what you have. And you enjoy the thing together. It's about fellowship. This is about all of Israel celebrating the same thing. And think about that for a second from heaven. God looking down and He's going, they remembered. The silliest way, or I can sort of equate it to, is kids remembering their parents' birthday long after they moved out of the house. They're busy, they've got their own kids, you're running around, and then yet 9 o'clock on your birthday, whether at night or in the morning, you get a phone call. We might be staying in a different country or whatever, but yeah, we miss you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and we love you guys so much, and doesn't that just warm your heart? I'm not even in that situation. I think, sure, if I can get that from my kids, I think that will be all right. Now, if we're sitting there remembering while Christ is waiting to come and take us, and He's looking down, And remember, this is one of the only feasts we see in Torah where people were like, listen, I'm unclean, I can't keep it. This is unfair. And then they actually make a special allowance, and he said, well, if you can't keep it in the first month, do it in the second month. It is so important that God gives us a second shot at it. Same law, same way, do it the month after. If you're traveling, you're stuck on a boat, and you get shipwrecked, think of Paul. And you're like, I need to get back for Pesach. I've got a day or two of balance, but I've got to do it. But I'm here, my boyki, and I miss Pesach. Do I have to wait a whole year? No, I says, no. My boy, come up next month. We'll have a good time. We'll celebrate my birthday then, okay? If that's how far God goes for you to say, come sit at my table, don't sit down thinking now, oh yeah, okay, this is what we have to do. Man, this is an opportunity to sit with your King. And he's saying, sit with Daddy and remember what I did. Remember that Messiah? Remember that crucifixion? Remember the love in his eyes? And remember, he was slaughtered as the Passover lamb. He was buried on the first day of unleavened bread, and he resurrected on the first day of first fruits. You cannot separate this stuff, man.
Reminds me a lot of the parable of the virgins keeping their lamps trim.
What does it mean when he gives the parable of the virgins and then he gets in, some of them didn't have oil, some of them did? What do you think it means?
Are you prepared for it or not prepared for it?
Right. Are you sitting waiting? That is your special anointing. Are you using it willy-nilly or are you using it just for them? Or do you know, let's use a silly example. He gives you perfume. And he says, I want you to wear this on the day I come and fetch you. Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready for when he could come? And remember, he could come at any time. And they, it's a really weird thing about that parable is that he arrives at midnight. He knows she's asleep. He doesn't say, there she is sleeping again. It's midnight, but he knows. She was not rebuked for being asleep. But they got up and they got ready. And I love the comments. Like, give us some of your oil. It's like, go to the merchant and go buy some. At midnight. Come back tomorrow. By the time you get there, you get back and you convince him to get oil, he's come, he's taken, he's left. Then you're knocking on a different door. Hi, remember us reported the bridal party? A little bit lost. I never knew you. Doors closed.
What new is the intimacy. You were not intimate with him and get to know him.
Absolutely. You weren't taking the time. You never took it serious enough that he could come now. Remember what the scripture says. They ask him, Yeshua, who knows the time of your coming? No one knows the time except the Father. Biblical custom. Daddy, what do you think of the house? Is it done? Is it ready? Okay, my boy, it's done. Remember, in my Father's house there are many rooms. And I go and prepare a place for you. Father's house? Where does God dwell? He's going to come, and he's going to fetch you, and he's going to take you up. And your warning call is going to be a shofar sound. You can't fix your relationship with God at the sound of the alarm. You're either ready or you're not. You're either His or you're not. And I'm telling you, we're sitting around and we're looking at things and we're saying, yeah, no. If He doesn't come today, how many of you deal with that in your mindset? Do you wake up in the morning and go, well, if He doesn't come today, I'm going to make this for supper. If He doesn't come today, I'm going to go and do X, Y, and Z. Or do you say, well, when we retire, when I finish my exams, when we go on December holiday? How many of you spend 7 months, 6 months, 8 months preparing your whole yearly schedule, but you don't think twice when the Messiah comes today? You've got retirement planning. You've got insurance in case something might happen. You've got medical aid just in case. How many of those things are sure? You can bank your house on this. He's coming whether you're ready for Him or not. Take this time. Check your walk. If you are dealing with disobedience, if you are dealing with rebellion, if you are dealing with anger, if you are dealing with malice, if you are dealing with whatever, fix it. Change. It is an opportunity. It is a reminder to make sure that your dress is clean. So that when He does fetch you, you don't come in there and you've got grease stains on the left boot and you've got this on the side over here and you go, I swear it was in the cupboard the whole time. Your chametz is going to stain you and He's going to look at you and He goes, are you ready or not?
I just want to say that Corinthians 11 verse 27, and getting into that, he's quite serious about Passover because he says, from 27 he says, therefore whoever eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of sinning against the body and the blood of the Lord. A man ought to examine himself before he eats of the bread and drinks of the cup. For anyone who eats and drinks without recognizing the body of the Lord eats and drinks judgment on himself. That is why many among you are weak and sick, and a number of you have fallen asleep. But if we judge ourselves, we would not come under judgment. It says, when we are judged by the Lord, we are being disciplined. We very God.
Take stock now. As you're cleaning out your house, ask Him. And I don't know about you guys, but in many cases we know when we're not living up to what we should. That's not an excuse to carry on doing it. It's an excuse for you to take time, take stock in saying, I need to fix this. If you're going to sit down at the feast of God and your brother has something against you, if your children have something against you, if you have something against your parents, if your neighbor has something against you, He says, fix up. If you're going to break bread together, celebrate it, man. Enjoy it. This is something that should be a feast. It's not something that you have to sit there and we have to go through the Seder and then I have to eat this silly thing and now I'm sitting here with matzah and I have to listen to the story. If He did not save you, where would you be? How empty would you be? How broken would you be? I can tell you now, if He did not keep me alive, I would have been dead a long time ago. I will not sit down at Pesach. I sit there and I think, Lord, if it wasn't for You, I would not have life. So You've given me this life, what am I going to do with it? One step closer to You coming, Lord. one more year of growth. One more year that you can flow through me, that we can bring people in. If that's your heart and we're going to wait another year, Abba, I'm here. You've got to take yourself out of this. You've got to get rid of that comment. Okay? You guys understand?
You said who might join. Is it only people who believe in Christ? Anyone, if they accept that cup, they accept that.
Yeah, we read this
Really,
scripture
yeah, I
that
know.
Tanya said.
But you said unclean, and I'm thinking physical things.
Spiritual uncleanness.
Now,
Remember
now
that.
look at the Muslim nation, their ladies have to wait and things like that. So I'm just thinking, how far do we take this now?
Can you read your Bible if you're unclean?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you sit at this table? Remember, clean and unclean were stipulations that were whether you could go into temple or not. Right? You gave birth to your children, yes?
Yeah.
Right. So people come and give you kisses afterwards.
Yeah.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
Thanks.
The doctor, very well. No, you get to a place, remember, this is when you're coming into the fullness of the place of the temple. But to celebrate, to get up and you can pray, guys, uncleanliness is something that we're dealing with in a perpetual state. You touch anything dead, you're unclean. You eat anything wrong, you're unclean. There are so many things. The thing is, it's when you look at the cleanliness laws, you realize that this is how broken we are. How are we going to get to the state of cleanliness and holiness in its fullness? It's a reminder of how far we've got to go. Yeah?
Sorry, what was the verse that you gave? I didn't get it.
That's Corinthians.
1
1 Corinthians, yeah.
Chapter 11, verse 27 to 41.
Yeah. It's a big thing, guys. Okay. If you guys are okay with Passover, I just want to ask a question that's been coming up. We've been having, there's been a bit of things going around. We've had a few people come up to us and discuss certain dreams, maybe a vision in certain cases, about what they deem to be end time stuff. If you've had something, would you come and hang back a little bit? We just want to try and put all the ducks in a row. And when I say this stuff, we're talking about sometimes there's been dreams of darkness, raging seas, ships being thrown about, people disappearing, what other earthquakes, people, one or two have had dreams of Mashiach coming on the clouds, and people completely freaking out around them. Very similar to what Manny shared with us a while ago. This seems to be happening not only in this fellowship, but there is some worldwide things, but obviously we have to sift through other people's stuff. So if you have had something, if you guys would just hang back a little bit afterwards, and then what we can do is we can set up a time. What we want to do is try and knock together all the imagery and look at the different stuff, so that we can kind of just put the pictures together and see what Abba's trying to show us. I tell you one thing though, he's telling us to get our backsides into gear. Use this Pesach as an opportunity to fix up and get your relationships right. If you've made a commitment, to renew your commitment to Him. To stand up and fight for what you believe. The world will give you excuse after excuse after excuse. Your emotions, your sleep-deprived state, your friends will tell you, you don't have to, I wish you would just, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, you're not Jewish, blah, 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 blah. God's coming. What are you going to say? My friend said, my boss said, I was tired. Guys, we need to understand something. If you think that this walk is about your comfort, if we are supposed to be like Messiah and he was beaten, crucified and died, why do you think you have to be comfortable? Why do you think this is about you? If he had to go through that, and he, not once, did he turn around and go, nah, these guys aren't worth it. I pray you never have to go through that. But I ever need you to understand the cost and start making decisions. What is your focus? Who is your focus? And what are you declaring with your life? And that should reverberate through every decision you make. From how you dress, how you speak, and most definitely, what you do. If you are looking for the world to tell you you're pretty and you're handsome and you're smart and you smell good and you're successful, if that's where you think your reaffirmation is going to come from, the world's going to have it. But if you just stop and listen for a little, and get quiet for a little bit, and actually ask God what he sees, you get your reaffirmation from him. What man says means nothing. And I know some of you guys are young, it's a difficult stage. I'm telling you now, don't look to men, you're going to make mistakes. He thinks you are so beautiful, so important, so worth it, that he died to have you. You remember the crucifixion, you remember the burial, but please don't forget the resurrection. He's not there. Stop treating him like that. He's not stuck on some tree somewhere. He's sitting in heaven. He's built onto Daddy's house. In my Father's house there are many rooms. I've built one for you. You want it? Get ready. Alright? Okay, as you guys well know, there will be no fellowship next week. We're going to be away for a few days. 18 days to be exact. What's going to happen is Mark and Regan have volunteered themselves. We just told them, like, you're teaching, decide who's teaching when. Mandy's still going to be here. So we've got people, fellowship is going to carry on as normal except on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is not going to be anything. But on Shabbat there'll probably be one session for a couple of weeks, and then we can pick up when we get back. Alright? Chag Sameach, enjoy the feast. Celebrate nicely together. Hopefully this will be a time of enlightenment for you guys, where you can just open up your hearts and see the beauty that this is in. And then I look forward to hearing stories when I get back, yes? Alright.
Last question. I have kids in my school who really wants to keep Pesach. It's their second one. I mean, last year it was very new to most of them. But you said they only have to believe that. What about cleaning out the chametz and stuff? They clean their rooms, but their parents don't want to do the rest. They don't understand it. So they are going to try and keep it on their little corner. And they are going to fall in traps because the parents are cooking the food. So I find it a little unfair to them, you know, they are children. How do I support them? Are they allowed to come? What do I do?
If they're believers, yes.
Yeah,
The thing about eating chametz is very important, guys. It says you'll be cut off from your people if you eat chametz. So they're going to have to make it very clear to mommy and daddy.
They do.
Right? They can only control, I mean, I don't have any biblical information to this, but if their room's their dwelling place, then that's what they can clean. I think they're going to find it
Extremely good.
they're going to have to go sit and have a conversation with their parents, or they're going to have to come to you and they're going to have to say, listen, this is what we're doing, this is what the kids have decided.
Okay.
When you're preparing food, if you're cooking this, please make sure that your kids maybe have something else. And remember, it doesn't have to be complicated. Veg, pasta, rice,
Just no spices, no sauces.
no spices, no sauces, and you keep it to, meat, veggies, you can have potatoes, you can have rice, just no gravies and mayonnaises and things like that unless you check them out. Okay? So that from that perspective, you're probably going to have to be a bridge for them. But pray about it, but from where I'm standing right now, I think our result will be happy with every try. All right. Okay. Prayer time is every time.